I'm having trouble with my horse not wanting to go down the trail. We get about 50 yards from the barn and he spins and will not move forward. He's pushed into a tree and into bushes. He does anything he can to avoid going down the trail. I thought he was a trail horse when I purchased him, but maybe not. He's a wonderful arena horse and cow horse, but going down the trails, he says no. Should I try pushing him a little farther each time?
All right, Melanie, let's talk about your horse. So, good news is, I don't really think it's got anything to do whatsoever with your horse not being a trail horse. So that's the good news. Now, I don't also think that your horse is frightened on the trail. I think it's very simple. Your horse just sounds barn sour, to be perfectly honest. And here's what's giving him away. When they're wheeling around and going back to the barn like that, like if you put your hand down and he runs right back to the barn, and then all of a sudden when he gets to the barn, he's just magically calm, that's a dead giveaway that what it really is he's just refusing you. He's refusing. You get out a little bit, you start walking down the trail. Nah, I've had enough. You know, this old gelding I learned how to ride on, I used to do this all the time. If we rode him 7 days, in a week, I'd bet you 4 out of 7 days, I'd ride him out 100 yards from the house and he'd grab the bridle, spin around, run right back to the house. And as soon as he get back to the house, he'd just chill right out, okay? And we were kids, didn't know anything to do about it. And honestly, we probably made it that way. So in hindsight, you got to cut him some slack, okay? But in your horse's case, we're not cutting him any slack. So here's the deal. The good news is it's a very simple fix. I didn't say easy necessarily, but very simple. I would start off proactively, when you get on your horse, get on him outside of your barn and go work him around your barn. Just start the session with go trot some figure eights, go lope some circles around the barn. If you got a place to go do, you could roll him back up against the barn wall, go do that, okay? Then I want you to trot him outside of your gate, trot him away from the barn, 50 or 100 feet, and let him walk, okay? And then when you let him walk out there, if he at all starts pitching a fit whatsoever, okay, I want you to immediately let him, if he wants to spin around, you let him, and I'm going to let him hustle back to the barn. Don't let him blind gallop to the barn if he's being that bad, okay? But let him hustle. If he wants to trot or even he wants to canter, assuming that the conditions are safe, you're not on the side of a paved road or something like that, I'm going to let him do it. And as soon as he gets back to that barn, I'm going to go hustle him again. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Go lope him around the barn. Go do this for a good 10 minutes. A lot of hustle, a lot of change of directions. This will not work if you bring him back to the barn, a little circle to walk, a little back up 4 or 5 steps, and a little bit of forward. It won't work whatsoever. You got to get him up there and make him uncomfortable. Your attitude when I'm doing something like this or when you're doing this should be this right here. You wanted to be here. Well, we're here now. So now what? Now I'm going to make this uncomfortable until the next time when we walk out, don't try to get my attention. Don't be raising your hand and be a brat about it, okay? This reminds me a lot of a scenario. I had a gentleman as a friend of mine who told me that his horse, when he hauls him out and he rides him out a lot, and he's trotting around bushes and training on his horse on the trail the way Clinton teaches. And he told me, he said, I think I've done too much circling bushes because now she's kind of doing it on her own. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right. I don't think the horse is working itself. You know what I mean? That doesn't even pass the smell test. And he said, no, I'll show you. So he rides it out away from the trailer. We get both of his horses out there and we're riding them down the trail. And we get probably 50 yards away from the trailer. And sure enough, that mare walks off and she goes to circle this bush. And I, for a half a second, was like, are you kidding me? Okay, what's going on here? But immediately she ratted herself out. She turned like a half a circle, like la-da-da-da-da. And then as soon as she was looking at the trailer, like, oh, trailer. And she just galloped back to the trailer. Okay, that's a dead giveaway. Okay, you're wandering off here to throw me off the scent a little bit. But the reality is, no, you're just trying to turn around. You're just doing it in a somewhat polite way instead of just rearing up and wheeling back around on me. Okay, but the answer's the same. The same thing we would do with your horse is the same thing we did with his horse. In his case, it was the trailer. So we went and loped him around the truck and trailer. Now, I'll tell you, it probably took every bit of an hour to really get this done, okay? where I bet you in that hour time frame, we could never just walk her down the trail, probably for the first 7 or 8 repetitions. Like, she was so bad about it that as soon as she would get out there, she wouldn't stand still, or she wouldn't walk down the trail either. She would walk down the trail maybe another 20, 30 feet, and then she'd wheel off and run back home, and your horse is probably going to do the same. In the beginning, when you take him away from the barn and you go to let him rest, either at the standstill or just letting him walk down the trail, it's not going to take long before he's like, yeah, but I think I really want to be there. And the reality is, the horses know that the barn's a good deal. It's where they get fed. It's where the rest is. Home is where the release of pressure is. All horses are going to figure out where home is. That's a given, okay? So that's how you fix it. Repetition. Do this consistently. I would do this every day with your horse for a week, okay? Until he doesn't even remotely think about going back to the barn. Until you flip the script on him. When you go to ride him home, he's walking slow like, oh, come on now. Do we have to? Why do we got to go back home? What's the big rush? I love trail riding. Let's just stay out on the trail, okay? So the good news is I don't think your horse has a trail problem whatsoever. I think he's just barn sour, okay? Let's talk about some preventatives going forward, though, to get rid of this. The key on barn sour, body sour, anything that the horse has a natural magnet to is this. You ever heard of that expression, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure? That's kind of the deal in this situation. The quickest way to get a horse to do what your horse is doing right now, if I wanted your horse to do what he's doing right now, this is what I would do. I would go ride him on the trail, and I'd go work him outside on the trail, and I'd hustle him, and I'd candle him, and I'd bring him back tired and sweaty. I'd ride him right back up to the barn. I'd immediately unsaddle him. I'd immediately take him into his stall, and I'd feed him. Now, does that sound like what most of us do? The answer is yes. We're done. We're tired. We want to be done. That's all fine, but what we're telling our horse is trail riding really sucks, and being at this barn is so amazing. Okay, so every time you bring the horse back to the barn, I want you to do some kind of work around the barn. It doesn't have to be all of this cantering and hustling forever. That's just what you do to fix it. That's what you do to make it extreme. I'm trying to make some extreme examples from my horse to say, this is a big release of pressure, walk and totally relax. That's option A. Option B is hustle, 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 burn calories and lose weight at the barn. You pick, okay? Don't be in the gray area where like, well, we kind of work at the barn a little bit, like I guess if you feel like it. That's not going to get it. That's a gray area. Black and white. Pick this team, option A or option B, okay? Now, maintenance, it could be something so simple as bring him back to the barn, spin him around a couple of times, work on a little bending at the walk, stop him and back him up, go side pass him a little bit, go trot some figure eights, go trot some circles. It depends on what your horse knows how to do. Obviously, it's going to dictate a little bit what you're going to do, okay? But if you do a little bit of work around the barn and then ride him out 100, 200 feet away from the barn, get off of him out there and loosen up the girth and let him rest and then let him come back to the barn. You got to go back to the barn at some point, okay? But you don't just ride him back to the barn and do a big old release of pressure. Where you release the pressure is where you're telling the horse you want him to be. It really is just that simple. So you have to be very aware with your horse. I'm extremely aware. Where do I get off of him? Where do I let him stand still and let him rest? So when your horse finally walks away from that barn, I'd let him walk a quarter mile away from that barn, and if he's being a gentleman, I'd get off of him right there, and I'd loosen up the girth, okay? Then I'd lead him back. So I would make it a habit. I'd never get off of him directly at the barn, and I'd keep moving that location around. But especially for a little while I'm trying to fix this problem, I'm gonna get off of him way away from the barn, because I'm trying to do what? Trying to exaggerate. Look how good it is out here. You thought it was a release of pressure back there. What a joke. It's a release of pressure out here on the trail, okay? So if you follow that protocol, this is going to take consistency. It's going to take repetitions. But if you follow this protocol, I know you can get this accomplished, okay? So go give this a shot. I hope you have success with this. If you're still having problems with it, send us back in another question and we'll get you on the right track.
Take your horsemanship to the next level. The No Worries Club Premium membership is your ultimate portal to complete your horse training. You'll have access to Clinton's complete training library, thousands of hours of step-by-step instructional videos. You'll master all aspects of horsemanship, from fundamentals to trick training. You'll have access to our exclusive social network that connects you with thousands of dedicated horsemen from around the world. You'll have the method available wherever you are and accessible through the web, your phone and tablets, or your favorite streaming devices. You'll receive 8 all-new training videos per year and the quarterly No Worries Journal, as well as access to the ever-growing video library, Q&As, performance horse series, blogs, and more. But that's not all. You also get free tickets to walkabout tours and priority access to the latest news coming from Down Under horsemanship, not to mention VIP pricing on all of Clinton's must-have training tools. So what are you waiting for? Unlock the ultimate access and jumpstart your training program today.